Have you ever wondered why something that happened 5 years ago can still ruin your mood in 5 seconds? Someone said something cruel to you once, and somehow you still hear their voice in your head. You made one mistake months ago, but your mind keeps replaying it like it happened yesterday. The argument lasted 10 minutes. The relationship ended years ago. The person who hurt you has probably moved on. So why are you still suffering? Here's the part nobody tells you. Sometimes, the thing hurting you isn't what happened. It's what your mind keeps doing with what happened. You replay the conversation. You imagine what you should have said. You wonder what would have happened if you'd made a different choice. You scroll through old messages. You revisit the same memory at 2 a.m. when the whole world is asleep, and your brain suddenly decides it's the perfect time to reopen every emotional wound you've ever had. And here's the crazy thing. The event may be over, but your mind keeps paying the bill. Psychologists often talk about how rumination, the habit of repeatedly thinking about negative experiences, can keep emotional distress alive long after the original event has ended. In other words, your brain can turn one painful moment into hundreds of painful moments simply by replaying it. And that's exactly where today's ancient story begins. A story about two monks, a muddy river, a woman who needed help, and one simple question that completely changed the way one of them understood his own mind. But here's the mystery. The monk who broke the rule wasn't the one carrying the heaviest burden. The real burden was being carried by the man who never touched the woman at all. And by the end of this story, you might realize that you've been carrying something too. Something that happened a long time ago. Something that should have been left behind. But somehow, you're still carrying it. And the question is, why? Tanzan walked toward the woman. He didn't make a big speech. He didn't argue about the rules. He didn't stand there debating whether he should help. He simply said, "Come, I'll carry you across." Before the woman could fully process what was happening, Tanzan carefully lifted her and stepped into the muddy river. The water rushed around his legs. The rain continued falling, and with every step, he moved closer to the other side. A few moments later, he reached dry ground. He gently put the woman down. She thanked him. Tanzan simply nodded, and then he walked away. That's it. No dramatic conversation, no hidden agenda, no second thoughts. For Tanzan, the moment was finished. But for Aikido, it had barely begun. He stood there in shock. His mind was racing. How could Tanzan do that? Didn't he know the rules? Didn't he care about his vows? How could a monk carry a young woman in his arms? Aikido didn't say anything. Not yet. But the scene had already entered his mind. And now, his brain started doing what human brains often do when something bothers us. It started replaying the moment, again and again and again. Think about how this works in modern life. Someone sends you a rude text. You read it, then you reread it, then you think about it while you're eating, then while you're driving, then before you sleep. You imagine the perfect response. You think, "I should have said this." Then you imagine what they might say back. And suddenly, a 10-second interaction has occupied your entire day. The message took 10 seconds to write, but your mind keeps carrying it for 10 hours. That's exactly what was happening to Aikido. The woman had crossed the river. Tanzan had walked away. The moment was over, but inside Aikido's mind, the river was still flowing. And the strangest part, he hadn't even realized that he was the one keeping it alive. Long ago, in the quiet mountains of Japan, two Zen monks were traveling from one monastery to another. The roads stretched through peaceful forests, rice fields, and narrow paths surrounded by bamboo. One monk was named Tanzan. He was experienced, calm, and easygoing. He didn't spend his life trying to look wise. He simply was. He understood that life wasn't about controlling every little detail. It was about knowing what truly mattered in each moment. The other monk was younger. Let's call him Aikido. Aikido was disciplined, extremely disciplined. His robes were always perfectly arranged. His prayers were performed exactly as they should be. And every rule he had ever learned was treated like a wall that could never be crossed. To Aikido, discipline meant control. And control meant never making exceptions, never bending, never questioning, never stepping outside the lines. Now, at first glance, might think Aikido was the better monk. He followed the rules. He avoided mistakes. He stayed within boundaries. But here's where things get interesting. Sometimes, the person who follows every rule on the outside can still be completely trapped on the inside, and Aikido was about to find out exactly what that meant. The two monks continued walking. Hours passed. Then the weather changed. Dark clouds rolled across the sky. Rain began pouring down. The peaceful road quickly turned into a mess of thick mud. Their sandals sank into the ground. Their robes became wet and heavy, and the river ahead was rising fast. As they approached the crossing, they noticed someone standing at the edge of the water. It was a young woman. She was wearing an expensive silk kimono and desperately trying to keep it from getting soaked. The current was strong, the water was deep, and she clearly had no idea how she was going to get across. Aikido saw her and immediately looked away, because there was one problem. According to the rules they followed, a monk was not supposed to touch a woman. To Aikido, the answer was obvious. Rules were rules. So he kept walking. But Tanzan? He stopped. And what he did next would stay in Aikido's mind for hours, maybe even years, because Tanzan looked at the woman, then looked at the river, and made a decision. But here's the twist. The decision Tanzan made would be forgotten by almost everyone involved, except the one person who couldn't let it go. The two monks continued their journey. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 3. The rain stopped. The clouds disappeared. Birds returned to the trees. The world outside became peaceful again. But Aikido? He was still fighting a storm. He couldn't stop thinking about what Tanzan had done. Every few minutes, his mind returned to the same question. How could he do that? Why would he break the rules? What kind of monk behaves like that? And here's something incredibly relatable about human psychology. When we feel angry or hurt, our minds often don't want resolution. They want repetition. Because repetition creates the illusion that we're solving the problem. We tell ourselves we're thinking about it, but we're not actually moving forward. We're just going in circles. That's why you can replay an argument 50 times and still not feel better. You can analyze a breakup from every possible angle and still wake up missing the person. You can keep asking, why did they do that to me? And sometimes, there is no answer that will finally make the pain disappear, because the real problem isn't always the memory, it's the attachment to the memory. Aikido was doing exactly that. He was holding on to the moment, holding on to his judgment, holding on to his anger. And every time he replayed the scene, he carried the emotional weight a little further. Meanwhile, Tanzan, he kept walking, calm, quiet, free. Eventually, the sun began to set. The two monks arrived at the temple where they would spend the night. And finally, Aikido couldn't take it anymore. He turned toward Tanzan. His frustration exploded. How could you do that? Tanzan looked at him calmly. Aikido continued. We are monks. We have vows. We are not supposed to touch women. How could you carry her across the river? Tanzan didn't argue. He didn't get defensive. He didn't explain himself. He simply looked at Aikido, and then he asked a question. Just one sentence. A sentence so simple that it completely destroyed Aikido's entire argument. And that sentence contains the real lesson of this story. But before we hear what Tanzan said, ask yourself something. How many things have you been carrying that ended a long time ago? Because what happened next wasn't just a lesson for Aikido. It might be a lesson for you too. Tanzan looked at Aikido and said, Brother, I left the woman at the river hours ago. He paused, then quietly asked, Why are you still carrying her? Aikido froze. Suddenly, everything became clear. Tanzan had physically carried the woman for only a few moments. He helped her cross the river. He put her down, and he moved on. But Aikido? Aikido had been carrying her for hours, not with his arms. With his mind, he had carried her through his anger, through his judgment, through his frustration, through every thought that replayed the moment. The woman was no longer there. The river was far behind them. But Aikido was still standing beside it, inside his own head. And isn't that what we do sometimes? Someone hurts us once, but we keep hurting ourselves by remembering it. Someone betrays us. They move on, but we keep carrying their betrayal into every new relationship. Someone rejects us. The moment lasts 5 minutes, but we spend 5 years wondering if we're good enough. We fail at something. The failure ends, but we turn it into an identity. I failed. Becomes, I'm a failure. And that's a huge difference. Because when we confuse something that happened to us with something that defines us, we start carrying a burden that was never meant to become part of our identity. Maybe you made a bad decision. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. Maybe someone didn't choose you. That doesn't mean you're unworthy of love. Maybe you trusted the wrong person. That doesn't mean you should never trust anyone again. Maybe you messed up. Welcome to being human. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You cannot change what happened, but you can decide how many more times you want to experience it. Tenzan understood something Aikido didn't. The past can only keep hurting you if you keep bringing it into the present. And that raises a powerful question. What are you still carrying? Simply because you haven't realized you can put it down. But the psychology behind it is incredibly modern. Today, we carry the past in ways Aikido could never have imagined. We keep screenshots of old conversations. We reread messages from people who are no longer in our lives. We check the social media accounts of people we claim were over. We replay embarrassing moments from years ago while taking a shower. We lie in bed at midnight thinking about something someone said in 2019. And here's the wild part. The other person might not even remember it. You're losing sleep over a conversation they completely forgot. You're angry at someone who doesn't even know you're still angry. You're punishing yourself for a mistake that nobody else thinks about anymore. It's like drinking poison and hoping the other person gets sick, but they don't. You do. That's why letting go isn't about saying what happened was okay. It's not. If someone hurt you, they hurt you. If someone betrayed you, the betrayal was real. If you made a mistake, the consequences may have been real. Letting go doesn't erase the past. It simply means you stop allowing the past to control your present. And this is where we can learn from Tenzan. He didn't pretend the river wasn't there. He didn't deny that the woman needed help. He didn't spend hours worrying about what other people might think. He saw the situation. He responded. Then he released it. That's emotional freedom. And honestly, that's harder than it sounds. Because sometimes, holding on to pain feels safer than letting it go. Anger can make us feel powerful. Resentment can make us feel like we're protecting ourselves. But eventually, the thing we hold on to starts holding on to us. And that's when we become like Aikido, not trapped by the river, not trapped by the woman, but trapped by our own thoughts. And there's one more lesson hidden here. Because letting go doesn't mean becoming careless. It means learning when something deserves your attention, and when it doesn't deserve another second of your life. First, compassion matters more than blind rigidity. Rules have value. Discipline has value. But if following a rule makes you ignore someone who genuinely needs help, it's worth asking whether you've misunderstood the purpose of the rule. Real wisdom isn't just knowing what you're supposed to do. It's knowing what the moment actually requires. Second, learn to let go after you've done what you can. Tenzan helped the woman. His job was done. He didn't spend the next 6 hours wondering if he had made the perfect decision. He didn't obsess over how other people might judge him. He helped. He released the moment, and he kept walking. Imagine if we did that with our own problems. You apologized? Then stop punishing yourself. You learned the lesson? Then stop repeating the mistake in your head. You did what you could? Then let the rest go. Third, be careful with your own judgment. Aikido saw the exact same event as Tenzan, but they experienced two completely different realities. Why? Because the event itself wasn't controlling Aikido. His interpretation was, this happens all the time. One person doesn't reply to your text. Your mind says, they hate me. Someone looks at you differently. You think, I must have done something wrong. Your boss gives you feedback. You hear, I'm not good enough. Sometimes, the story in our head is more painful than the reality in front of us. And fourth, your inner world matters more than your outer image. Tenzan's clothes were covered in mud. Aikido's were probably cleaner. But who was actually free? Tenzan. Because freedom isn't about looking perfect. It's about not being chained to your own thoughts. And here's the question I want you to sit with. If you could put down just one emotional burden today, what would it be? Because maybe that is the thing you've been carrying for far too long. So let me ask you something. What are you still carrying? Is it an old argument? A failed relationship? Something your parents said? A mistake you made when you were younger? A friend who betrayed you? A person who rejected you? Or maybe it's something even more personal. Maybe you're carrying guilt. Maybe you're carrying shame. Maybe you're carrying the version of yourself you wish you could go back and change. But here's what I want you to remember. You cannot go back to the river. You cannot change the weather. You cannot undo what happened. And you can't rewrite yesterday. But you can decide what you carry into tomorrow. The past is a place you can visit. It is not a place you have to live. So the next time your mind takes you back to an old wound, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself the same question Tanzan asked Akido. I left that moment behind a long time ago. So why am I still carrying it? Maybe you don't need another explanation. Maybe you don't need an apology that may never come. Maybe you don't need to replay the conversation one more time. Maybe you don't need to punish yourself anymore. Maybe it's time to put it down, not because it didn't matter, but because you matter more than the pain you're carrying. The river has already passed. The storm is already over. The road ahead is still waiting for you, and you don't have to walk it with your hands full of yesterday. So before you leave, think about this. What is one thing from your past that you're finally ready to put down? You don't have to share the whole story. Just name it for yourself. Because sometimes, the first step toward healing isn't forgetting what happened. It's finally admitting, I'm tired of carrying this. And if this story reached you at the right moment, share it with someone who might need to hear it too. Because somewhere out there, someone is still standing beside a river they've already crossed. Still replaying a moment that ended years ago. Still carrying something that should have been left behind. Maybe this story can help them put it down. And maybe it can help you too. The past may have shaped you, but it doesn't have to carry you. So let it go. Take the next step and keep walking. Because sometimes, peace begins the moment you finally stop carrying what was never meant to follow you. If this story touched something inside you, subscribe to the channel. Because the next story might be the one that changes the way you see your life. Stay with us, and let's keep walking forward, one story at a time.